And it's gonna be, I don't know if I'm gonna get too many people to look at this and say anything about this shit. But I'm talking about Train to Be Psychotic. And I'm gonna be talking about the training that we were put through the 70s, 80s, 90s, and to today through television to be psychotic. Most people used to watch action movies back in the day when they were little kids and didn't realize what they was being taught. You know, action movies when I was a kid, they were like, Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome. I don't even have to say too much about that. But post-apocalyptic type shit when I was a kid, training us to be, always afraid of the unknown and shit. Never throughout history has, any nation gone through this Mad Max shit, Beyond Thunderdome crap shit. But they used to teach us that. You know how people are. They watch things, and that's how they perceive things to be. But, just think about it, man. These movies like License to Kill, these are like 80s movies. Delta Force, Sudden Impact, Black Rain, all these movies like these action, Rambo, all the Rambo series. These are movies that people emulated because they looked up to these stars and were like, man, these people got a lot of skills. Today's kids, they have it even worse. Because back then we would have to wait for VHS or you would have to buy some cable and shit. Now you can watch all of this shit for free, anytime, anywhere with your cell phone. And these kids are they being overwhelmed by this shit. Action Jackson, in the black neighborhoods around about, late 80s, Action Jackson he was like a superhero. He had, the guy that played as Action Jackson, Carl Weathers, he freaking went through the Rocky, and we saw him get broke down in Rocky and shit after being obviously the best fighter on the screen. But see, that's how demoralization worked, though. Build you up, and then tear you down. That's demoralization 101. Build you up and then pull the rug from up under you and shit. Take away all hope. So Carl Weathers was in that Rocky movie, and he was beating Rocky ass. But then this is how they get you. They made Rocky the underdog when he was the star of the show. There were no underdogs in Rocky because Rocky was the star of the show. He really didn't have no skills, and he was being taught with no technique. That was the whole thing. Just get beat up and wait till your opponent gets so tired of beating your ass, and then come back and win like that. But that was a false sense of hope. That was to make you feel like, oh, the tables have turned. And I wonder who they was directing that shit at. Then Rambo came out around about the same time Action Jackson came out. And it was like, here we go again. The two people that was fighting in Rocky, now they fighting in Action Jackson and shit. Well, Action Jackson against Rambo. So Rambo and Action Jackson was like two competing circuits. One for Italians and, I don't know if white people took Rambo serious and shit like that, but I know damn well people took Carl Weathers serious. In my neighborhood, after watching the Action Jackson movie, man, everybody wanted to be Action. Everybody wanted to be Carl Weathers' character, right? In the Rocky movie, everybody that was black wanted to be fucking Apollo. But at the end of the movie, you kind of like switched your stance up and wanted to be Rocky and shit because he was like the underdog. That shit right there is like some forced manipulation type shit. We didn't really know how propaganda and the subliminal shit works. So it made it hard to see who was the good guy and the bad guy in these movies. And Rambo, he didn't come off like a crazy person at first. He just seemed like a veteran, a loner, and then some people come across him and they just want to, fuck with him and brought the kill out of him. But in actuality, we don't know the backstory before all of the killing and all of that shit. See, because I think Rambo was a traveling, serial killer. And he was just hiding out. And some people discovered him. And that's where the Rambo movie picked up at. He never, said that he was a Purple Heart recipient or none of that shit. He was just acting weird and people was fucking. If you look at the movie now, objectively, you'll see what I'm talking about. That right there drove a lot of young men to go in the military under false pretense, thinking that they would develop some type of unknown technique that the military had that they gave Rambo. When in actuality, that's not the case. That movie right there built a lot of, psychotic thoughts in people, especially young men, to know that they had some type of killer inside of them that had to be brought out by, being put in situations where your military training, is tested and shit. Rambo, right? That movie right there was actually, part 3. I'm not talking about part 1 and 2. Part 3 really jumped out because it started to get into political shit. Showing us that, we are fighting against, formidable invaders, from other countries and shit. Let's say like right now we're looking at Israel and Pakistan, them people fighting and shit. Believe me or not, there's people that believe that they can go over there and change the tide of this war because of their superior military training. And that's that Rambo bullshit. But when you look at these, they're actually telling you that you got to be psychotic and fucking willing to kill people in order to defeat certain types of policies or certain types of, rules that these countries and other people have and shit. So that's the only way you can actually overcome all of this shit is to be a psychotic killer. Because if you didn't notice, Rambo was a psychotic killer. That motherfucker killed people. And even though they made it seem like nobody was fucking with him, he still killed people indiscriminately. People he obviously knew he could kill. Look at the way that they set that movie up. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusades. That shit came out in the 80s too. And that right there, convinced a lot of people that they can go out and find hidden treasures in these locations and shit, which is psychotic. There are no hidden treasures. There haven't been any treasures being found throughout history. All of that stuff that these people so-called found and say were treasures. Let's take the tomb of King Tut and all that shit. All of that shit was staged. None of that shit over there is authentic. They got the sarcophagus and all that shit and the casket laced in gold. Let's think about it. Some shit buried underground for years, right? Nobody there to clean it or take care of it, right? And it's exposed to the weather. They say it's like the tombs were airtight. That's bullshit. How you gonna make a tomb airtight and it's made of rock and sand and shit? It ain't gonna be airtight. Just like that, you can't create an airtight dwelling right now, like a house and shit. There's gonna be something get in there. There's gonna be moisture, dust, all kind of shit. And I'm saying is, is that these people present this stuff like it's brand fucking new, and it looks brand new too. That's what made me realize that these people are faking that shit. And they got us interested in this shit in movies like Indiana Jones. The only way that they were able to push this Egyptian shit on us with all the hieroglyphs and all that stuff is to put movies out to train us to think in these psychotic ass ways like this shit can actually last for hundreds of thousands of years. That's a damn lie, man. There's no jewelry that can last for no more than a couple hundred years. Not no fucking hundreds of thousands of years. They put this shit out to make us think that it does. Bones and stuff like that. And they started off with movies like Indiana Jones. And people don't even realize it. They had to be coached into remembering that shit, you know, to be faithful to that bullshit. Movies like The Running Man, where you got fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger out here running from shit. And they made a couple other series about that like that as well. What's up, real? Nah, we was taught that shit, bro. They taught us to be psychotic through our movies and shit. Nobody, and these are movies from the 80s. A lot of 80s people, they don't realize that they were exposed to this shit at a young age and it was just developed over time. And just because you're not out there committing these crimes and shit, don't mean you weren't professionally trained to be psychotic. Because that's what a lot of these motherfuckers do. They don't fucking tell people that hey, listen to this shit. People are out here doing fucking crazy shit and they were taught to do it. Nobody fucking say anything about it. But that's what's happening. We don't realize how far TV has come. And these old movies like that, shit, I can go back to the 70s. Movies like freaking what do they call that one shit with Charles Bronson? You know, he had some movies out there were really psychotic, shooting people for stealing little shit, killing them on the streets, and nobody say anything, no cops or nothing in the movie. So it made it seem like, oh, that's some good shit. That's real. That's how it happens. Dirty Harry. That movie came out in the early 70s with Clint Eastwood. He made a bunch of motherfuckers psychotic, man. With that weird ass way he was acting, you know, squinting his eyes and chewing on sticks and shit. Come on, man. Nobody got all that they were showing a suicidal, psychotic cop that went rogue, carrying around a revolver, blowing people's head off. And look, you know, try me, punk. Make my day, shit like that. You know what I'm saying? How you tell a person to make your day, nigga, so you can kill them? This is crazy, man. These are psychotic fucking movies that raise us and turn us into psychotic people. You know, in the action movie field, there's a genre that they call extreme action, but in actuality, it should be called psychotic. Because when you get into shit like, you know, movies where you see people kill one another like indiscriminately and no consequences come after it, in the back of our mind, we're saying that's how it's supposed to be done. You know, but right up front, we're not freaking knowing that these people are trying to influence us into doing shit. Right about the same time that Dirty Harry came out, right? You got Mad Max. You know, Mad Max, and then you got these fucking action movies like the Bruce Lee movies and shit, where Asian dude, small ass Asian dude, beating up hundreds of motherfuckers. See, that's just to get you in the mindset that you can go up against impossible odds and beat them if you got training, superior training. But man, them people ain't doing it but setting a lot of people up. You know, imagine how many people went out and tried to do that shit that Bruce Lee was doing in the movies. They got their ass massacred. You know, that's how they build a whole fucking cult of psychotic motherfuckers running around testing these movie magic theories, thinking that they're gonna get some shit started. And look, it became so popular, man, and Bruce Lee created a whole series of these movies. You know, and this is around about the time that we was fighting with fucking these Asian countries and shit. But this Asian dude becomes big in the United States because he knows karate. And they have millions of motherfuckers out there making karate movies. I can't tell you how many karate movies. But see, this is what lets you know that they put this man in our face and pushed it so hard. Because even though we thought that that movie was a black, no, not a black, but a Chinese man fucking fighting for his freedom and everything like that, it was pushed as a black man to black people, you know, because he was going up against a group of people that he didn't really fucking, rock with. You know, Bruce Lee was fighting against the Chinese, fighting against the Japanese. He was fighting against some kind of oppression and shit. But they created all of those movies and pushed them on us. Had people thinking that they can fucking fight with kung fu and all this shit, man. But they didn't realize, man, that shit was going to, well, we didn't realize that shit was going to impact us for years to come. You know what I mean? People started taking karate classes, thinking that shit was going to save them. Man, that shit was nothing. It's still nothing. I'm going to say it like this. Karate, kung fu, all these martial arts, they are not certain unless they're in a competition setting. You get out there in the streets and you trying to do that shit, and the person doesn't allow you to do it to them, you're going to get fucked up. If it's like spur of the moment type things, yeah, you might be able to do that. Salutes out there. But they got all kind of shit. You know, they made a movie back in 1977 called The Man Called Blade. And I wonder what we watched in the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s, called Blade. That movie right there that they created in the 70s, we didn't know that they were going to create another one, put a black face on it. But the first Man Called Blade, yeah, the movie was just like the vampire Blade. The bounty hunter is hired by a mining crippled mayor because his daughter was taken. And when his daughter was taken, he hired this man who called himself the Blade. And guess what on the title of the movie was? When you got this movie back in the day, you probably didn't even know that you were watching a white dude because it said on the front, Manaja, right? Mannaja. That's what the movie was called, but it was called A Man Called Blade. But you saw on the front was that Manaja, almost like saying my nigga. You know what I'm saying? And then in the 1990s, mid to late 1990s, they fucking made the Black Blade movie. You know, and they put him as a vampire or a vampire hybrid to go and kill all these other guys. Just like in the movies in the 1970s called The Man Called Blade. And, man, look, they pushed this shit making you think that you can go out and kill these people if you had a mission and if you had a purpose and then nothing would happen to you. Building that psychotic mindset. And then they further did it with the Blade movie that we know of, because I know most people don't know about that 70s movie called A Man Called Blade, because it was made when I was born, in the year I was born. You know, but a lot of people don't realize that a lot of this shit that we watching right now is old shit that's remade, that they realized was psychotic, and people took to it and started trying to react to that shit. If we move towards the 80s, right? If we move towards the 80s and we start looking at some of the movies that they had back then, where my shit at? Because a lot of people don't realize this, man. That fucking Clint Eastwood right, was born in the 30s, right? And he was brought into this shit because of the way that he had a special way of acting, that nobody could get back in the day. And they called it fucking an intensity, but in actuality, it was a fucking he was acting like a psychopath. That's why he fucking made it to the end of the he was made it into that fucking movie. Same thing with Die Hard with Bruce Willis. I'm gonna slow this shit down. I'm gonna get out of breath. Bruce Willis in that movie Die Hard, man, you watch that closely and tell me if any of the shit in that movie he did was justified. Because I'm telling you, there was nothing in that movie was justified. And they had it like the Twin Towers. Even on the cover of that movie, this movie was made in 1988. The cover of the movie shows the Twin Towers or something similar to the Twin Towers exploding. Nobody caught on to that shit that they were trying to show us what they were going to do to the Twin Towers. And I guarantee you, around about that same time, they try to blow the Twin Towers up in the basement. Look into it. But ultimately, that movie right there, Die Hard, was talking about the man that was playing in the movie. Was this idea of this psychotic fucking cop running around killing psychotic fucking Russians and shit. First Blood. We go back to that. See, these movies, man, they didn't fucking tell us that these movies came with like a decoder and shit. That we was gonna have to figure it out one day to actually figure out some of these symptoms that we're dealing with right now today. First Blood, another Rambo movie. This cat, he's running around killing people in a town, small town now, when he could have just utilized his fucking connections and got all of them caught up. But nah, he was just killing them. And they showed us every fucking kill. That's what the whole movie was meant to do. Show us how to kill motherfuckers indiscriminately and get away with it. Around about the same time, Predator came out. With a setting in the jungle. With these motherfuckers running around fighting aliens. But in actuality, they were talking about the Vietnam War. Where they were thinking that the Viet Cong were these fucking aliens. Because these people were elusive in the jungle. They were running around. At least that's what they told us. But think about it. If these people were that crazy and that good, would we have survived? Why would they keep on sending people out there to just die out there in this fucking jungle if these people were actually that badass? But see, that tells you right there it was all a show. The motherfuckers in that Predator movie were high off their ass. That movie was probably about a bad trip. Where these people was out there in the jungle, taking drugs, mistaking each other for fucking aliens, and just shooting and killing each other up and shit. Because the stuff never fucking, there was no explanation, just an alien come from outer space to kill humans or to hunt. Later on, you learn the backstory from the fucking the sequels and everything. But the first movie, man, this was just a bunch of fucking soldiers out in the jungle, playing war games, hunting something they ain't never saw. It probably was their own people. That's why they couldn't find out who it was. And guess what? The last motherfucker is always the one to tell the story. Just like they do today with the lone gunmen and all that shit. How do we know that the movie wasn't about this psychotic ass fucking soldier who preyed upon his own soldiers in the bush? So when they let them go, who they was actually fighting was Arnold Schwarzenegger, the leader of their group. But they were showing us in the movie that, they fight against an alien. Newsflash, real life, no, aliens do not exist. Aliens do not exist. So who were they fighting against? Some mythical, some magical, imaginary motherfucker. But he was doing the same thing to them that they were trying to do to them. Cutting each other's arms off. I don't know about you, but aliens, if they gonna fucking shoot you with a alien weapon, it's damn sure not gonna blow you up like, a human explosive or, some type of human weapon and shit. But in that movie, they did. And they have movies like Beverly Hills Cops, where they show you that unorthodox type people can make a difference. But in actuality, man, that shit was wrong. That shit was false. First of all, Beverly Hills Cop, right? You got a Detroit cop working in Beverly Hills, California, as if he was hired by their police force. So that right there should have told you right there that we working in some type of subliminal message type thing. And then they got Eddie Murphy, a black cop, going to Beverly Hills, where a number of white cops were. At least that's what they portrayed, but I think that was a lie too as well. But yeah, he goes out there and he's solving cases in Beverly Hills. Then he gets to go home like he fucking was on deployment or some shit. It was just weird, man, how if you look at these movies, you'll see how they were training us, getting us to think a certain way. Raiders of the Lost Ark, another fucking Indiana Jones movie. And around about these times, they put these movies out. They just mysteriously find some ancient artifact and shit. I'm telling you, when they about to reveal these artifacts from the past to prove their religions and shit, they always put movies out like that. Raiders of the Lost Ark or some Indiana Jones movie. Something that will get you intrigued about the shit. Like in the back of your mind. Oh, I watched that. I know a little bit about that. Just to get you to relate to it. When you don't really know shit about it. None of us know about anything. I hear these people talking about the damn pyramids over in Egypt. And I'll be thinking to myself, you ain't never went to Egypt and personally investigated any of this shit without being on a tour guide. What about they got all the people down south all hyped about these mounds and shit, right? Telling them the mounds are older than the pyramids. How are y'all testing the date of these tourist attractions? The mounds down south. If these people were so technologically sound, why are we celebrating a big ass dirt hill? You mean to tell me they couldn't use their knowledge and expertise in science and all this shit to build something a little bit more architectural like? They have to just put a big ass dirt hill and say this is our version of the damn pyramids over in Giza. When those things ain't nothing but glorified dirt hills too, but with some limestone or sandstone shaped pyramids. And we put so much stock into this stuff, man. Not because it actually matters to us, but because we were trained to think that way. You got to be out of your mind to think that these big ass fucking dirt hills have some significance other than people just moving around Earth. Pushing dirt, removing shit from one place and putting it in another place. So it's supposed to have some significance on us as a people to make us think that back then, this is what we were doing, just playing in the dirt. See, it's demoralizing, and we don't even realize that what we're doing, to think that all these years, the most that we have is some dirt mounds and brick buildings that don't even support, people living in them. Ain't nobody living in no damn pyramid. And then they say, since they can't prove that people lived in the pyramids, let's go ahead and let's prove that it was made for some type of scientific reasons. Oh, the pyramids were made to make power. And then they come up with all these elaborate ass ideas and theories and shit on how it makes power. We don't realize this is psychotic, man. This shit is psychotic. Those areas over there, just like the areas over here, the mounds and the pyramids are all tourist attractions. How do we sit back and learn about the world fairs, them building elaborate cities with castles and all kind of shit, and then in less than 30 days, they take all of that shit down and turn the city back to normal? How are we studying that? And that was a tourist attraction. But they try to make it seem like it was some type of scientific revolution. The same thing is happening over there in these places and where we have these mounds and so-called pyramids. They taught us to think that these things were used for a certain reason other than just, oh, wow, big pile of dirt. You see what I'm saying? Oh, wow, big old block set. And then that's how they get us to go down these psychotic fucking, little loopholes and shit, to where we think that we're smarter and better than somebody else because we played in the dirt more than everybody else. People gotta see this shit, man. Big Trouble in Little China, another psychotic movie. Remember when the motherfucker was looking for nothing but green-eyed women? He could only sacrifice green-eyed women. In real life, that's some serial killer shit. But what makes it even bad is this right here. The person that was after him, that guy that was fucking Kurt Russell, his character that he played, right? He was a dumbass. He believed in all of that shit instead of actually seeing it for what it was. It was nothing but a human trafficking, fucking psychotic serial killer that was after green-eyed fucking women. Had a tail and everything, collected items and all that shit. Nobody even saw that. That opened up the door for a lot of other these fucking crazy ass movies that got people thinking shit. Lethal Weapon with fucking Danny Glover and that motherfucker Mel Gibson. Two psychotic motherfuckers. Danny Glover is a psychotic person anyway, because he believed that what he was doing was real police work. That's what his character believed. But then the psychotic white cop that he was with was openly psychotic, wanted to kill himself on the screen. But he became the hero because he used his psychotic methods to catch and kill bad guys. You know, at one point in the movie, he had a gun to his head, about to pull the trigger. And you had Danny Glover there with him, talking about, yeah, pull the trigger. But then he gets scared at the last minute, like, oh, this motherfucker's for real. So he stops him. But see, that right there is a play on what they was doing. See, Danny Glover is the people that are partially psychotic. They haven't got there yet. But Mel Gibson, his character was there. He was ready to do anything and everything, depending on the situation. So he was initiating Danny Glover into the psychotic police work cop hood. And that's how this movie became famous, because everybody was looking at Danny Glover and Mel Gibson as the good guys. But in reality, they was crazy ass cops. They were psychotic, doing shit that normal cops and police work wouldn't do. You know what I'm saying? So this is how we are pushed into this age now, where we got a bunch of motherfuckers that try to do the same shit, but not knowing that shit was made up to trick a whole society of people into doing shit that they didn't want to do. What about fucking Top Gun? This got a lot of people into thinking, about going in the military and becoming pilots, right? Yeah, Tom Cruise had that shit looking cool. He was up in jets flying around, shooting at other planes and shit, knocking planes out the sky, and they created a whole series of Top Gun movies, right? But not knowing it was to get unsuspecting people to come into the military and join a damn drug cult. Because look, these pilots have to take legal methamphetamines to fly these fucking planes. Look, we got motherfuckers flying above us high as a kite. These people are on drugs. They on heavy alcohol. I mean, to the point where the average person wouldn't even be able to function. I've worked around these people. They're all functioning drug addicts and alcoholics. Top Gun was to pull people into that shit. See, to make it seem like, oh, this is good, this is great, got a little love story with it. You know, we over there fighting for our country and flying planes, but they ain't show Tom Cruise in the background shooting up no dope, smoking no pipes, and fucking drinking no alcohol besides at that little fucking bar that they showed him at. But in reality, that's what these people do. They literally shoot up with dope and literally take fucking methamphetamine pills and tablets and shit like that to stay awake for long periods of time and become ultimately addicts, drunks. You know what I'm saying? And look, the military will take care of them. Some of these people are out there right now that we know as the homeless veterans. You know, if you ask some of these people how they ended up like this, most 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna go into their backstory and say it was the culture of the military that got them like that. They're not gonna go into that. Because see, then their entire persona of being a disenfranchised veteran will go out the window. Oh, you did this shit to yourself. Oh, the reason why you out here is because you want to be out here. You can't function in normal society because your behavior is not accepted. You know, no fucking company out in the civilian world gonna hire a pilot that's hooked on methamphetamines. Think about it. Think about it. Most of the pilots that were ex-military, they're not gonna tell you. They're not gonna tell you that in order to qualify in the military and fly those missions, they had to be high as a fucking kite. You know, most of them was on autopilot. I mean, literally on autopilot. And not to mention that one movie, Red Dawn. Come on, man. We've been living in Red Dawn fear since the 80s. In Red Dawn fear since the 80s. They've been making us think that the United States is going to be invaded by another country so much. They had us getting up on a desk in the 80s, hiding from nuclear blasts and shit, when there was no threat of any of that shit. No threat of it. You know, Red Dawn was actually not for black people. Red Dawn was for white people to get them stirred up and afraid of their own shadow. See, because if you look at the Red Dawn movie, guess who was invading? Another group of white people. But the other Red Dawn movies, right? The other Red Dawn movies, they show different races of invading the U.S. Man, that shit will never happen. Ever. Not unless it's a coordinated effort from the people that's already here. So if we ever get invaded, believe this, believe me, somebody in the United States has something to do with it, or some bodies. If we ever get invaded by a foreign force, our government is directly involved, allowing it to happen for one or two things: to get us behind a war effort, or two, to support a certain politician. And that's been what it's always been. You know, in 1984, they created the Terminator. And the Terminator was to get us prepared for what they're trying to do right now with machines. You know, everything to be automated, autonomous. You know what I'm saying? Artificially intelligent. It's to get us ready for this shit right now. The new group of kids that came out in 2000 didn't know too much about Terminator, so they had to reinforce it and make a whole series and a whole line of Terminator movies just to keep them in the loop, right? Just to keep them in the loop, to show them that just because something looks like it's human doesn't mean it is. And in fact, that is exactly the truth. But instead of with machines, we need to recognize that they're not talking about our actual machine. They're talking about biology. I mean, they're creating shit right now in biology that we wouldn't even fucking believe they could create. You got people, you got scientists creating beef out of feces, man, out of shit. That's the Terminator. If you don't think that's Terminator, then tell me what happens when the warriors back in the day, and this is hearsay, this is fucking allegedly, used to smear feces on their arrows and on their swords. So when they stuck and stabbed and slashed each other, that they would poison the enemy, even if they survived. That's the same shit this poop meat is, man. This meat made out of shit. It's the Terminator. They trying to terminate you by making you eat your own defecation and shit, man. Your own poison your body rejects and pushes out of your ass. They making meat out of that. And see, that's the Terminator we should be worrying about. Because they've been trying to replace the natural with artificial for years, for decades. They've been trying to replace natural meats and shit like that. They've already replaced the vegetables. I ain't even got to talk about that. They've already replaced the vegetables. All the healthy vegetables are all gone. Right? See? Because now we're growing everything indoors. And the few farmers that are growing their shit outside, guess what? They're being terminated. You know why? Because they're getting money from the government to not farm. You know, so if you're farming and the government says, hey, we're not going to pay you if you grow crops this year, then it's up to you to grow those crops and try to sell them on your own. Shit, they're not doing that. Especially if the government is paying them the same amount of money that they would make, you know, from selling the shit. That just makes it more easy for them to make money. Now they don't have to do shit. And see, that's how they get terminated, because if they refuse, they won't get no funding when they really need it. If they refuse, then they get shut out of the market. If they agree, next year, the same thing can happen, but now they can offer you less money for the supposedly amount of crops that you would have grew that year. And they can keep that going over and over and over again until they dwindle it down to just enough money for you to survive. The Terminator is not talking about machines attacking men. It's talking about artificial attacking the natural. And that Terminator shit is psychotic. Who in their right motherfucking mind wants to eat some shit that they didn't fucking doctored up in a lab to make look like steak? You gotta be psychotic, man. You gotta be psychotic. And the alien shit is even worse. They keep on getting worse with it. They made movies about drones back in the day called Independence Day. Well, Will Smith in it now. And now they doing the same thing right now. They test it every year. Them lights in the sky all these years ago, the ones that we see leave at high rates of speed, guess what? That's drone technology today. Years ago, when they used to show us lights in the field, just flying around, just do-si-doing around and shit, then disappearing without a trace, that was drone technology. Independence Day was showing us that the drone technology is going to be considered alien technology in the future. Look at the dates that they put in that movie. The dates that they put in that movie are these dates right now. That's what's now. And we don't even fucking pay attention to shit like that. That drone technology shit, these drones that they say they see up in the sky, look how many times they changed the story on that shit. Oh, it's aliens. Oh, it's another government. Oh, it might be here. It might be an inside job. It might be them testing some type of new type of aircraft drone. All them stories, man, is to get you to fall down some psychotic fucking wormhole with this shit. And anything they bring up is like an aha moment, fucking you up. What about aliens, right? With Sigourney Weaver. Man, this another movie came out in the 80s. You know, I've been beating on the 80s for too long. I need to get off the 80s. Let's get on the 90s. Yeah. They in the 90s they had a movie called Dusk Till Dawn, a vampire movie, right? With George Clooney in it. I'm just naming off the people that are still famous today. With George Clooney on it, right? They had a bunch of other people in there, but George Clooney is the one that I recognize. And him and his brother were bad guys, right? But by the middle of the movie, they were good guys. You know why? Because they were fighting against demons. Now, why is that significant? Because we were taught that people fighting against demons are on God's side. Back in the day, when we were little kids, they still teaching that right now. But the people that were fighting against the demons were killers and murderers. Him and his brother were murderers, robbers. His brother was psychotic. He was a fucking serial killer himself. He thought little girls or young girls were talking to him in sexual ways while they weren't inside of a restaurant and shit. There was a scene like that. The same motherfucker that later on started creating these movies, the Tarantino series and shit. But that just goes to show you, man, that even righteous can be suicidal and psychotic and shit. See, because once they became targeted by the demons, now they became the good guys. They even use crosses and shit and holy water. How can a sinner use crosses and holy water to take out demons? It's not in the Bible, like, man, that's not in the religion. But they trying to make us see, even evil people can save you from evil. That's a lie. That is a lie. Evil people cannot save you from evil. 9 times out of 10, if evil people are fighting against evil, it's because they're trying to take over the evil spot of the evil ones that they fighting against. In that movie, these people were kidnapped by Clooney's, him and his brother, right? Were kidnapped and forced to go to this place with them. So they drug these innocent people into this shit and then demoralized them and turned them into evil people. The daughter, the son, yeah, they got a whole series just corrupted. And the dude that they captured was a preacher that was struggling with his faith. See, they demoralizing people not only in the public set, but in the religious way too as well. Psychotic shit. You know how many people changed their mind about religion when they saw that movie back in the early 90s, mid to early 90s? You know, so we don't recognize this, man, but these movies are slowly chipping away at us. And when I hear brothers talk about movies that make them think a certain type of way, open their eyes, gave them enlightenment, man, you don't even realize that you were betrayed. Anything you get from these movies, man, no matter how good it seems, has a negative that it was created after. And see, the negative is going to come out subliminally. You won't see it because you think that, oh, he's a good guy in this movie. But in actuality, man, they're telling you bad people doing bad shit can turn out to be good. And that's crazy as fuck, man. No wonder we all out here doing stupid shit to each other. You know, what about this? The James Bond series. They got so many of those. Nobody probably ever looked at the James Bond series as being a psychotic serial killer movie. Nobody ever thought about that. This motherfucker used the same weapon from the first James Bond all the way up to the last one. Even when they created another character to be James Bond, the 007. See? Even when they chose them. Now, there was a good one back in the day with, what was his name? Pierce Brosnan. This was back in I think it was Pierce Brosnan. I don't know if it's Pierce Brosnan or not. But back in the day, like in the 96, the GoldenEye series, or this GoldenEye movie came out with Pierce Brosnan in it, right? And this motherfucker, right? He was like really suave with it. He had that fucking, what was the motherfucker name? Golly, man, it's right on the tip of my tongue. He had that Jeffrey Dahmer thing going on, where ladies liked him and shit, you know. And come to find out, this motherfucker was a serial killer / agent, spy, all of this shit. And the women would always end up in bed with him at the end of the movie. Like, yeah, I just did a bunch of serial killer shit, and I got the bitch. You know what I mean? Making it seem like it was a good thing what he was doing. But in that movie, if you count how many people died from these actions, just like the fucking Mission Impossible movies with Tom Cruise. Man, look how many explosions occur where this motherfucker is running around on foot. We ain't even worrying about how many people dying in the wake of all that shit in the movie. If it was real life, everybody in that building would have been like what they call a mass shooting, a real mass killing. If fucking Tom Cruise comes running through your fucking business, you better run with him. You ever wonder why black people see a bunch of people running, they start running too? Because of shit like that. Because of Tom Cruise. White people, y'all need to take note, man, because that movie is showing you something really, really important. That you can't trust nobody. Not even the superheroes you can trust. You know, I ain't even named off no superhero movies because they got a lot of them from back in the day. But let's just talk about that old Blade movie from the 70s. The Man Called Blade. And how our Blade movie from the 1990s was a remake of that. The Blade movie from the 1970s was about a man who was a bounty hunter. Oh, really? So what was Blade in the 1990s? He was a bounty hunter too, but he hunted vampires. This man from the 1970s, the Man Called Blade, he hunted kidnappers. The mayor's daughter was kidnapped. And since he was crippled, he couldn't save his daughter from this man, who was his partner now. And see, this is how the Blade movie of today kind of coincides with the Blade movie from the 70s. You know what I'm saying? Because Blade was created by the same motherfuckers he was trying to kill. What sense does that make? Y'all don't realize, man, that movie not only had some psychotic shit in it, but it also talked a lot about our culture, what we call our culture. You know what I'm saying? So Blade was created by his environment, just like a lot of us serial killers were created by their environments, just like a lot of our civil rights activists were created by their environment. They did a lot of the same shit. They stole from people indiscriminately, lied to people indiscriminately. And then, after all the shit that they did, people started questioning, like, why are we fucking supporting this person and we ain't got nothing to show for it? They fucking end up disappearing. You see what I'm saying? Either they get killed or they just fucking fall off the face of the earth. Nobody see them again. But most likely, they would just get killed. Now, what if the getting killed part for our civil rights activists was the part that made Blade in the movie? When they got killed, they all got turned. See? And this is what people don't recognize. They putting this shit out here in subliminal fashion for us to pick up on it. And the people who do pick up on it, you gonna sound crazy because everybody else is like, oh man, that's my hero. See, this is how they test the shit. Around the same time, and I'm just saying these are all movies from the 90s. Around the same time, couple years before that, before they created Blade, they created Natural Born Killers. I know everybody should know that movie. With Woody Harrelson in it. And that one chick, Juliette Lewis or some shit. These motherfuckers, right? They were just going around the country just killing people. And they were looked at like the Bonnie and Clydes of their time, right? But in actuality, they were a part of that Blade movie too as well. In the Blade movie, the first Blade movie, you had a dude named what? His name was Frost, right? Frost had a woman with him that was doing the same shit that he was doing. And Frost was like this mastermind that was going to bring back the Daywalkers, that was going to end up, being able to walk during the day and still have all their vampire powers and shit like that. That was the same shit that Natural Born Killers was doing. I don't think they could get that message out. But the Natural Born Killer motherfuckers was trying to bring about a whole new way of life, of people just killing indiscriminately. That's what that movie with Woody Harrelson, The Natural Born Killer, was. It was like a vampire being able to walk during the day. So in that movie, Woody Harrelson and his girlfriend would have been the Daywalkers. And that's how they came about with that movie from Blade, by using an older movie from back in the 70s to push the new shit, the new psychotic or the new psycho, way of life and shit. They had movies like True Lies. That movie right there was psychotic, where, Arnold Schwarzenegger was playing a super agent man. Plus, he was living another life with his wife. I forgot her name. Jamie Curtis. Jamie Curtis, yeah. So he was tricking off on Jamie Curtis being an actual. Cause look at the shit that he did in that movie. This nigga was sneaking around killing people, and then coming back home like ain't nothing happened. That's serial killer shit. I don't give a fuck if you're working for the government or not. That's serial killer shit. That's serial killer shit. But guess what they put out before they put out True Lies? The serial killer movie. They put out The Last Action Hero. Same motherfucker, right? Same motherfucker. Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? But instead of being a flat out, lie and doing all this shit behind the scenes, this nigga was a movie star actor come to life with a magic ticket and shit. You see what I'm saying? So this is how they get us to think about fairy tales and then hit us with the real reason why. The year after they created True Lies. The year after. To push this imaginary fucking lifestyle that everybody was fucking believing in. Yep. And they created a series of movies based off of that. The Eraser with fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger again, where he's killing people, but not really killing them, putting them in witness protection programs. And y'all wonder why these serial killers, can go on killing people for years and years and not get caught. The same way these fucking politicians and actors can do all this dirt and shit and then fake their death and go on to live a normal, happy life with all of their fucking money and shit. It's really fucking crazy. It's crazy. It's really crazy, man. I can keep going on, man, but if people don't fucking understand what I'm talking about and they not really looking at these movies in a way that you are actually breaking these shits down and knowing that they are fucking with your mind, we're going to still use movies like The Matrix to prove our point about our theories, about our environment and shit. The Matrix, we think The Matrix is about humans being turned into batteries and there being a one. The batteries that these people are talking about, man, that shit will never exist. You can't get that much energy from a human body to power anything. I don't care if you put 1 billion of them together to power anything. Because we ain't powered off of alternate or direct current, AC or DC. That's the shit that they're not telling you. So what would this movie be about, right? If it wasn't about pulling power from people, but that was the message. The movie would be about controlling you spiritually, controlling you mentally. They don't need no power from you. When we got shit like solar, hydroelectric, fucking gas that'll never run out. You know, when they got fucking power that you can just get from the air, the ethereal power. Why do they need humans? They don't. But they need to control us to take each other out. Yeah, man, it's been an hour. I'm gonna go ahead and call it quits. But look, think about this. If the movie was used to tell you that some people are still plugged in, because I hear people talking about this. We got people still supporting the government after everything they done. But you don't realize, you trying to act like you Neo in the Matrix, and you've been set free. So all of us that's still plugged in, we pretty much the enemy. But you don't understand that by taking us out, you taking yourself down. You don't even know that when you take out all of these people, you ain't got nobody to support you, right? These are all the people you trying to save that you got to take out because they the enemies. You ain't got nobody to support you. And then on top of that, now all of us that's watching you do this shit is going to turn against your ass. So you don't fight the Matrix from the outside. You got to fight it from the inside. That's what they're telling you in the movie, right? So they're telling you literally to go in and infiltrate groups to take them down, right? What does that sound like? COINTELPRO? What's that sound like? Playing two sides of the game, switching up colors. And that shit right there is what'll get you caught up. And it'll ruin the whole group. That's why it don't pay to fucking team up with people, man. You gotta be a lone gunman in this shit. You gotta be the only one coming back that can tell the story. Yeah, I saved all their asses. Well, they all got killed, but I was the only one left over. I killed all them motherfuckers. See, because look, you don't want nobody else telling your story. Because ain't nobody gonna tell your story the right way. They're not gonna tell it like you. They've been telling us our story for all these years, and now look where we at. A bunch of mixed up motherfuckers claiming to be something we ain't. Aboriginal or Indian or some shit like that. Not even knowing that shit right there is all another human construct. It's all to make you envious of another motherfucker. To make something that ain't even worth nothing so glamorous that you would dedicate your whole life to becoming it. What makes the Indian so fucking desirable that the average person, average American, wants to be one? And when I say average American, I'm talking about black people. What makes them so desirable that we want to be one? What, they live in teepees? They live in teepees? They wear paint on their face. Oh, wait, it's the feathers. It's the feathers. No, that's not it. It's the fringes. It's the fringes. The fringes got us hypnotized and shit. See? That's the shit right there. Them people ain't got shit. They doing what black people used to do back in the day, run numbers. And we call it casinos now. Don't you know if we went back to the numbers running game, that would be so, oh my goodness. You're talking about a group of people that's 14% of society that pays the largest amount in the economy. So how does 14% of society pay $38 billion into the GDP, into the gross domestic product of the United States? And that not be something people look at and be like, wow. If we turn that shit around, instead of selling drugs to one another, and we fucking try and entice each other to do something like, let's say, create a pyramid scheme. See, y'all been been fooled to believe that pyramid schemes are bad. Pyramid schemes is the easiest way to create millionaires without even having to work. That's why they made it illegal. That's why they made the shit illegal. For everybody in the community to put together money to make one person rich and then just do that over and over and over and over and over again, bro. Come on, man. We're talking about wealth up on top of wealth. You would be able to, when it's your turn, you would be able to quit your job and start helping the next motherfucker to become a millionaire. But nah, they ain't got us like that. See, because they got us believing that we got to be a tribe. When the only person that benefits in the tribe is the chief. The fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I'd rather be in a pyramid scheme any day than to be in a tribe. Because see, in the pyramid scheme, all you got to do is repeat what the top is doing. And if you got motherfuckers that's not greedy, all the top got to do once they get to a certain point is give up the top to the next motherfucker below him and keep the process going. Give up the top, but you don't stop contributing. Let's say your goal was to make $10 million, right? You can live off less. Once you get to $10 million, man, relinquish the top, give it to somebody else. So once they get to $10 million, they can relinquish the top. That's how the pyramid scheme works. What do you think running numbers is? What do you think casinos is? People don't realize, man. When you go to the casinos, you are in a pyramid scheme. You at the bottom of the pyramid. The dealers are even in the pyramid scheme. They're at a certain level above you. See? But in the casinos, the motherfucker at the top ain't relinquishing his throne. That's why they keep getting richer, and we come in and we might take a little bit of money home, but we never win. Because see, we don't understand. The pyramid scheme is the house. And in gambling, in these casinos, the house always wins. See? So instead of going to the casino, why not bet on yourselves? Take that money and invest it in one person. Once that person achieves their goal, not in like success, not in fucking like what do they call it? Like in business. Because I think opening your own business is a sham. You spend more time working as the boss than you do as the worker. This is crazy. When all you got to do, let's say you got $1,000 and you want to become a millionaire. So you join this pyramid scheme. Everybody got $1,000. Once a day, everybody donates $10 and they keep on doing that until the $1,000 is gone. Right? And they keep on pushing it up to the top person. Once that top person meets their goal, now guess what that top person becomes? He becomes one of the people at the bottom again. And now the next person moves up. And see, now this top person, let's say his goal, right, was to get $1 million. Once he reaches his $1 million goal, now he becomes a person at the bottom. And now he starts giving out of the $1 million, $10 a day. Just like everybody else did to build him up until that next person reaches their $1 million goal. And then he becomes, next thing you know, the base of your pyramid is full of millionaires. What the fuck is going on? And people don't understand. This is why they made it illegal. This is why they made it illegal. And this is why gambling at these casinos should be illegal. But since they make this not illegal, we can do the same thing. Since it's not illegal to go to these fucking casinos, right? If you really want to break these casinos, don't go there as an individual. Go there as a group. You have a better chance of breaking the casino as a group. Everybody with $1,000. Everybody starting off on the same level. And guess what? Instead of playing your $1,000 individually at the casino, we're all playing our $1,000 through the top of our pyramid. So we get a person that's willing to go in there and gamble as a job, 8 hours a day. Everybody gives him a $10 a day to go and gamble. Once he reaches his mark, and see, this is where smarts come in and control come in. Once he reaches his point to where his goal was, now he becomes one of the people at the bottom and pushes somebody up. You can't see it on a large scale, but on a small scale, this will break the fucking casinos. See? Because they got it. If there is a point of chance with this shit, they'll break you. But if there's not a point of chance, the reason being is they want you to win, but they don't want you to win right off the bat. They want you to put money in to win first. So you become what they call a high roller. So that initial first couple $1,000, you got to lose. But since you got other people behind you supporting you, that you already know that's going to happen. I guarantee once you do this about 5 or 10 times, you got to have people that's up hundreds of thousands of dollars before they leave that fucking casino. See? Because now you know the game. They gonna blackball your ass. They're gonna say it's illegal to do that. Just like they said it's illegal to count cards when the whole point of the game is to fucking count the cards. But just think about what I'm saying, man. We've been tricked, and we've been tricked by movies. We've been taught that the psychotic and the dangerous and the crazies and the serial killers are the heroes. And everybody else, they just collateral damage. Salutes to the real ones.